How's it going, everyone? This is Jason Navarro. You're listening to Tongues Out Podcast, and let's just jump right into today's subject. Um, we'll do another short one today, actually. It's been a super busy day. I had to take my daughter to a pediatrician appointment, had a whole bunch of work stuff to deal with, and a lot of other interesting stuff that I wish I could address, but I can't come up. But anyways, right before I got up here, it's like I said, it's been a busy day, getting ready to do another great weekend cleanup because, my favorite thing to do on the weekends is to clean my house. But I was downstairs and I I don't know if I've talked about it yet. I don't think I have, but essentially on my podcast on the Cannabis Week that I spent the time talking about cannabis, my guest was a good friend of mine. His name's Curt, and we were talking about just different cannabis stuff and his perspective on things. And he was telling me that he used this device to grow cannabis, and it's called the Aerogarden. Essentially, it's a what is that? It's a hydroponic form of growing plants. So you don't need soil, you don't need anything of that nature. And the one I have is super high tech. So it turns itself on and off on its own. It's like digital screened. It tells me exactly like when I need to fill it up with water, but that's all it needs. It's just water and then some like liquid fertilizer that you put in there as well. Super simple though. And so I bought this. I can't believe it's only been a month and a half now. It's been about 40 days since I've had it. And my plants are insane. So when I bought my Aerogarden, it came with a herb kit. So it came with basil, parsley, dill, different types of it. So Genovese basil, Thai basil. What else did it come with? Two different types of parsleys. I can't remember the types. Dill, chives, and I'm forgetting one, and I feel so sorry because you guys are like my little children outside of my daughter. But it requires no work whatsoever to manage these plants. But as they get bigger, like the hydroponic system itself has an LED light that turns on that is essentially simulating light, and it only can cover so much area. And so I have to go in and I can elevate the system pretty high. But the thing is that all the plants grow at different levels. So you have to go in there and you have to do something called pruning. And pruning essentially means giving them a haircut. So I'm going in and removing any like dead leaves and then also removing the tops off of the plants and keeping it leveled so everyone can get like the same amount of light. Because the basil, man, the basil after like 4 days was already sprouted and was growing, and now the basil's like taken over. That with dill, it's just like it's just crazy. Like when I describe it, the machine's about this big, right? And it's about, I mean, it could be as tall as you want it to be, but like right now, my plants are about like this tall on average, which is pretty tall. It's about like, I would say maybe 2 feet tall, 2.5 feet tall after a month and a half. And now my objective when I'm pruning them is to kind of get them to bunch up and like spread out to the side. And then essentially the cool thing about this Aerogarden is that I never have to buy herbs ever again. The downside is that I don't want so when you prune, you could take what you prune and use that to cook, which is great. But the thing is like I'll never be able to grow something else in the system because like if I want to keep herbs going, I'm not entirely sure if I could take because the roots are so ingrown in the system. So like these roots are insane too. Like when I lift up to fill up the water, you could just see all the roots and they're just like, especially from like the basil, it's just all over the place. Like the roots are just like ingrown everywhere and they're like ingrown into each other. And I know like the most sensitive part of a plant. I don't know too much about plants, but I do know that the root of a plant is the most sensitive thing. If the roots die, the whole plant dies. And so I don't know if there's a way I can remove the plants from each other because, like I said, the roots are so intertwined with each other. But if I ever wanted to grow something else in it, I would essentially have to kind of like kill the plant or figure out a way to remove it out of the system and plant it in a planting pot and then put that outside. But then it would require me having to go out there and water them, keep an eye on them, see if there's bugs. the cool thing about this hydroponic system is that it's all done indoors. So I don't have to worry about bugs. I don't have to worry about fertilizer. Don't have to worry about contaminants. None of that stuff. It's just, I can pick the herbs and eat right off of it. So now I'm in a dilemma where I want to keep doing more of this because the system is so great. And essentially you can grow whatever from it. You can grow any vegetable or whatever. And so I'm at a point where like, I almost thought about buying another Aerogarden, but my friend Brian, we were chit-chatting about different things. We were having like an internal debate about what were we talking about on Facebook? My thoughts on Apple and just how they're like, that'll be a podcast in itself, but how Apple is pretty much maintain a monopoly over any apps that are allowed to be sold on the App Store. And there's a company called Epic that's a developer for a game engine that video games use. And also they are the developer for Fortnite, which everyone's heard of Fortnite. But essentially, they didn't agree with having to pay the 30% cut to Apple and also being forced to have to pay like that 30% for everything that is in their systems as well. Like they were kind of all right with the idea of like them, like it, not even that, because like the app is free. And so they were kind of getting annoyed at the fact that like they market the idea and they do everything. And they have an ecosystem outside of the Apple devices. Like everyone wants to play Fortnite. So it's not like Apple's really helping them because like Fortnite, it's like already a big popular game and it started off on PC and became big on cell phone devices. So they never felt like it was justified that they had to pay that 30% cut, but they had to do it if they wanted to sell their app on the App Store. But anyways, that's like not related to this podcast. But anyways, we were getting into a debate. I didn't agree with what Apple did, and my friend, for whatever reason, wanted to. And he's normally sees eye to eye with everything I see eye to eye with, but for whatever reason, he felt like Apple was deserving in doing that, and he was like, if they want to be on Apple's ecosystem, I don't have a problem with Apple charging that much. And I was like, dude, 30% is a huge amount to ask for. I mean, like if Apple was doing more than just like allowing you to sell your app on their cell phones, like if they were like marketing your app and giving you analytics and doing a whole bunch of other work, then yeah, I can kind of see why they would deserve a 30% cut. But like if you're doing all the work and you're marketing and doing all of that, that doesn't make sense why Apple deserves that big of a cut. Like the payment processing, it's like maybe 2.5%, 3%. And so for Apple to get the other 27% for doing what? For developing the code that they can use to put their app on that phone. Honestly, I feel like it's a detriment to Apple if they start doing this and a lot of apps are starting to like rebel and start to go against this. I went off on a tangent again. We'll talk about that in another podcast. But anyways, he was telling me how essentially I could create my own hydroponic system. And it's been kind of as we were talking about it, I was like, yeah, but like I'm super lazy. But honestly, it's not that I'm lazy. I think the biggest thing, because when I grew up as a kid, I used to love building things. It was like one of my favorite things to do. And like I built this PC and I enjoy like the mechanics of like building things and getting, like if I didn't have to worry about like destroying things, I would love to take things apart and then put them back together. I'm more interested in like taking things apart though. Like the putting it back together is always the annoying thing. But I think for me, I have to change my mindset because as I've gotten older, it was like more like, I don't know if you could like build this thing or like there's a lot of self-doubt that goes into everything. And like, I've always told myself, I don't want to be a handyman, but there's a small part of me deep down inside that would love to be a handyman, that would love to be able to kind of like get up and drill things and put things together. And like, I think the last thing I ever built that was like complicated was like a fort when I was a kid. Like we used to build ramps. We used to build a whole bunch of stuff as kids. And I don't know why I grew out of that, to be honest. Like I used to buy electronic kits and used to like build like electronic stuff. I used to love building robots. And I don't know why that disappeared, to be honest. Like and I'm fascinated by things that people build. Like I enjoy watching these things. I love watching the mechanisms for how things work. And so when my friend was telling me like, oh, dude, you could save yourself a ton of money by just building your own hydroponic system, I was like, yeah, but I'm lazy. But honestly, it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to build it in a way that is going to be functional. And I just need to get over that. So I think sometime this week, I'm going to do a little bit more research. And essentially, like I said, the restriction on my Aerogarden is that it's this wide. It could be as tall as I want it to be, but it's this wide. And the light is just as wide as the system itself. And I can adjust the height of the light as high as possible, but the width I cannot do anything about. So what I want to do is I want to get a hydroponic system that I want to build that I can essentially grow like tomatoes. And tomatoes are like vines. They like grow like crazy. I want to grow like tomatoes. I would love to be able to grow avocados, but that's impossible. But like tomatoes, and anything that grows like off the ground, nothing that grows on a tree because you can't grow a tree in a house. That'd be so funny to watch just to see someone grow a tree in their house. But, yeah, I want to find different like fruits and vegetables I can grow out of the ground itself and do that. And actually, my wife's family used to grow a lot of lettuce. And they actually had a lettuce business that they had for a while that they would sell to like local markets. And it was a hydroponic system as well, but it was pretty in depth. Like it was a massive facility that they had. But they eventually got rid of the business. It was just a lot of maintenance for them. And they had like workers too, but it still was just a lot of like maintaining like the workers, make sure the workers didn't steal and blah, blah, blah. And they just didn't want to deal with the headache. But I would love to just have like maybe hydroponic system that is about like as big as this area, like from like where that wall is all the way up. And sorry to my audio listeners, but essentially 6 feet by like the way I envision it is like 6 feet long by maybe 3 feet wide, 4 feet wide, and just grow a ton of stuff. I can't even imagine the power consumption it's going to take and the amount of water that it's going to take as well. Because I use distilled water, and I just buy distilled water, and because I use distilled water for everything, like my daughter's stuff, like all of her things, and like these plants, everything's distilled water. And it's just good to use distilled water because it doesn't have minerals, and so it's not going to destroy like the internals of a lot of machines. Like my coffee, I use distilled water for because I don't want to go in there every single month and like use like vinegar to like break up the mineral compounds and then drain it, wash it, clean it. Like I don't want to deal with that. It's so much easier to just use distilled water and not really have to stress out about that. But anyways, I can't do that. Like I could probably get a filtration system, but then it's going to get so costly that it's going to make me want to just do an Aerogarden. And like, I know the way my friend is thinking of doing, like the way he recommended it for me to do it, is just using your water from your pipes. But Florida is different because he's from Florida. Florida's water system is different from Vegas's. Vegas's water system is like super heavy in minerals. And I know that's going to deteriorate like the motor, like the pump, because there's a pump that pumps out water. I know that's going to destroy that pump. So I have to filter that somehow or get like a system where it's like kind of like the Aerogarden I had that circulates the water. But essentially these plants, as my plants have gotten bigger, they drain more water too. It's crazy. It's weird. Like before I would like fill up like a cup of distilled water a day and it would last like 2 days almost. Now I have to fill up like 5 cups of water because these things are just like sucking up water and growing and growing and growing. And so I can only imagine like for what I just described, how much water that would take. It would probably take a ton of water. But I want to try it anyway. So I'm going to do a little bit of research and watch some YouTube videos and learn how to do it because it's just enjoyable. Like me and my wife enjoy watching these plants grow, and it's good to just not have to like buy your plants and not be sure like where the plants are coming from. Like at least when I grow them, I know that they're clean, they're, well maintained. And like, I think that's super cool. It like makes me want to have a farm. But then I remember how difficult having a farm would be. So I would rather have like a little yard area but having everything indoors is kind of cool too. Like I have by the way, fun fact, I don't have like a living room. Like I don't have like a sofa, TV or anything like that. It's not that I can't afford to have those things. It's just that I don't need it. Like everything I need is like here in my office or in my bedroom. Like I don't have it. Downstairs is literally just a cook. So I have a massive living room area that's not being used. That's where I want to put this hydroponic system in and just utilize that space for that. And so I think it would be super cool to do something like that. So stay tuned. Maybe something for me to start. I need to start taking like photos of my Aerogarden and posting it on Instagram and just doing stuff on social media. God, social media just, to me, seems so toxic every time I bring up the word social media. It's like, I don't want to be on those platforms, especially after watching something like Social Dilemma. But yeah, just wanted to talk about Aerogarden, hydroponics, growing plants indoors. And it's just super fun. I would definitely recommend it. I got mine for a super cheap discount. Like normally the Aerogarden, it's a great way to get your foot in the door, and it's super easy to install. It's not complicated whatsoever. And like I said, my system does everything. I can even use my Alexa to control it, but I don't. But normally for mine, it's like $450 because it's a 9-pod. So I have like 9 different plants growing out of it. But I got mine for $220 on Amazon. It was like half off special. And so I was like, oh, yep, beep. Like right after Curt was telling me about like how he was using that to grow cannabis, I was like, let me just check, like, because I've never heard of someone else having an Aerogarden. And when I heard that he loved his and his was old, I was like, let me check out how much these things are. And right when I checked, it was like perfect time because it was on promotion, half off. And I was like, yep, buying it. And I'm glad I did, honestly, because now it's getting me wanting to grow. And now I want my house to just be a big forest, a big greenhouse, rainforest. Wouldn't that be so cool? Like in stream, just to have like trees like all around me. And me like trying to talk to you guys. 1 second, guys. There's like leaves all around me. I gotta trim these damn leaves, damn it. But one day, who knows? That might be a reality when I live in an RV. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this podcast. As always, I'm so happy that you guys are a part of this ever growing podcast. It's just super awesome to just see engagement and having people reach out to me. But thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys mañana. Peace.